Hi students, this is Suchadata teaching economics to class 12 and now I shall start with macroeconomics. You have studied in detail the meaning, concept, details about the microeconomics, that is individual economics. Now let's start with what we say is the second part of economics termed as macroeconomics. The word macro as such has come from a Greek word named makros, which means large. In fact, the true meaning of macroeconomics is when we study the economy as a whole, that is, when the study is being made not of an individual's income, not of individual demand, supply, but when we are doing the study of aggregate demand, supply, production, consumption, income and so on is in fact the macroeconomics. That is, it is wider in its scale and it is the one which talks and studies about the country's economy under one head. Well, the scope of macroeconomics is very large. That is what I have been emphasizing on. So, the thing is that it is the theory of national income. Microeconomics dealt with the study of household income, individual income, but macroeconomics is to talk about the national income of the country. The second scope, or rather the second concept to be discussed in macroeconomics is the theory of employment. We do not talk about the employment of an individual, but we talk about the aggregate employment, which means we talk about the production, the number of jobs available in the market and so on. So, we are talking of aggregate employment in macroeconomics. The third is the theory of money, and when we talk of the theory of money in macroeconomics, the main concepts which we will have to study is the theory of demand and supply, how they are inversely related and how is it that they affect the theory of money in macroeconomics. The fourth concept deals with the theory of general price level. This is very interesting when we shall be talking about the price rise and the price fall. You shall see that the inflation and deflation comes in the country because of certain questions, because of certain points which we will study in detail, and it all comes under the heading of macroeconomics. Next is the theory of economic growth. When we have to talk about the growth of an economy of the country, we will be doing this again under the study of macroeconomics, that is, how is it possible to increase the growth of the economy in the country. What are those factors which can boost the economic growth, or which are those factors which see to it that the growth of the economy becomes bigger and becomes much more than what it was earlier. Next is the theory of international trade. As the concept of macroeconomics is very large and is not just related to domestic, it also talks about the international trade. So, our import and export, how does it affect, is all being studied in macroeconomics. If you look at these points closely, you will observe that they are interrelated. When we talk of the national income, it is because if there is employment, the national income of the country increases. If there is employment, that means there will be demand and supply. That means the money is in circulation. Because of the demand and supply, we see that the price level of the commodities will either increase or decrease. When there is money in the market, that means there is an economic growth in the country. When there is generation of employment, that means there is economic growth in the country. And automatically all this will give a boost to the national income. Okay. When all this is going on, production, consumption and so on, naturally the people with the surplus money, and also because there is a demand and people or the merchants have to supply, so there is an international trade. International trade which when comes to the market or when which encroaches into the country, it always gives both negative and positive aspects, which we shall be studying in detail. But remember, when you are studying macroeconomics, there are 4 sectors of the economy which you must go into detail. And those 4 sectors are, the first is the household economy. Then is the second, which is the production sector, and then there is the third one and the fourth one, that is the government sector, and the last, which is the rest. So, the household, the production sector and the government sector, and of course the rest. These are the 4 sectors of the economy of the country. Some deal with production, some deal with consumption, some deal with the growth in production, some deal with the welfare activities, and whatever is not included in these comes under the 4th, and that is the rest.